Opening game of the Rugby World Cup, and it is Japan with that much needed home victory. It's a job done. Job done without being overly convincing, I would say. 30 points to 10, 4 tries. They got the bonus point, which would have definitely been the target for this game, but no more. And they did concede the 1 try and trailed the game for more than half an hour. So if you're a Russian fan, there's still plenty to be proud of from that performance. For Japan, again, it's a nice way to ease themselves into the World Cup. Getting the result they needed, seemingly no injuries, and I guess giving themselves a better chance to take on Ireland and Scotland and improve their performance levels from here. The game started off nervously for the Japanese. They failed to take a kickoff early from the kickoff basically. So they put themselves under all kinds of pressure. And interestingly, Russia was going for the 7, not the 3. They weren't kicking for 3. They went for tries, and eventually they got it. It was Golonitsky got the initial try and the only try for Russia. Tupou let a high ball bounce, and man, were Russia kicking a lot of ball at the Japanese. Tupou misjudged that one, let it bounce, and Golonitsky was the first guy to pounce on it. Went over for the try, it was converted, made it 7-0. But Japan weren't to be denied, I guess, so early on. They did hit back relatively soon after. Matsushima got his first of 3 tries from a great Lafayette offload. Now, this game did have a fair few handling errors, but it also had a few moments of magic as well to keep you entertained. Lafayette offload to Tupou, who's the guy who made the mistake for the Russian try. So he had a hand in the last pass for Matsushima, so that's kind of a good news thing for him. They missed the conversion and 2 points behind with the Japanese at that point. Japan almost messed up the restart again. They managed to secure the ball, but it was messy, and again, you got to wonder how nervous they were. Being a home World Cup, all that pressure, many more fans than usual, and you notice the Russian guys when they were coming on the pitch, some of them just looking around like, man, we don't play in front of crowds like this every day, but I mean, if you played in Super Rugby, that would be the same too, right? Anyway, 25 minutes, Russia pick up the ball from the back of a ruck, counter-attack. They're looking like they should score a try for all money, but the guy who was attacking, I forget which one it was, he kicked it rather than looking for a support runner. There were Japanese defenders there, so no guarantee they would have scored, but it was one that they probably should have done better with. 34 minutes, Matsushima gets a try, but TMO rules it off, deems that he has lost contact with the ball in the act of scoring. There did seem to be a little bit of separation, so they ruled that one as a knock-on. However, a few minutes later, Japan go like 10, more than 10 phases. I think it was like 13 phases. And finally, Matsushima gets out in space. This time, it was another offload. I forget who it was that got the offload, but it was another good offload for Matsushima to be on the receiving end of, so he was able to finish that one off as well. They did kick the conversion with that one, so Japan went into the sheds at halftime in front, but only barely. I mean, 12 points to 7 at halftime, with the Russians having led the majority of that first half. Possession, though, was 57. It's late at night here in New Zealand. 57% here to Japan. Territory was 61, so they did have the better of that first half statistically, but not so much on the scoreboard for most of it. Japan was tackling at 90%, which is excellent. Made 52 tackles. Russia were at 64% with their 47 tackles, so yeah, not good for them. It's kind of surprising Japan had only scored 2 tries if you're going to tackle at a percentage that low. Interesting one was the kicking stats. Russia, despite having less of the ball, managed to kick a fair bit more. 26 kicks in that first half from hand to Japan's 19. So it was definitely a strategy. High balls, kicking back, forcing the Japanese onto the back foot, but perhaps it was kind of just to keep the game plan relatively simple. Run meters were 282 to 121 in the first half. Is it 121? 174. There you go. Still less than 200 for that first half. Second half starts with some proper intensity for the Japanese guys, and they do though take a three-point shot rather than going for a try, which I thought was interesting because I thought clearly bonus points should be on the cards for the Japanese, but I guess you got to secure the win first, and it was a real gift 3. So they kicked the penalty and made it 15 points to 7. 46 minutes, Lapis Labaskakni gets a try, which is kind of you don't want to say it's a fluke, it's a bit of skill, but it's not one that was a planned move. So if it hadn't come off, result could have been a wee bit different in terms of the bonus point, but he strips one of the Russian guys in the tackles, just runs, beats his tackler, and goes like 50 meters and scores a try. Showed some pretty good gas for a Lucy. And they missed the conversion for that one too. 20 points to 7 the score was. Japan were starting to look a bit more dangerous. But eventually, Russia did manage to push that momentum swing back their own direction after being under a bit of Japanese pressure. They had a line out in the Japanese 22, went 7 phases, got advantage, took the scrum. They were looking to take the game to the Japanese. But about 2 meters out, the Japanese win a turnover, defensive turnover, so the Russians' progress is kind of halted, although on 60 minutes they did score a penalty to get themselves within 10 points. Interestingly, though, the New Zealand commentary team kept mentioning that how all the guys off the camera all seemed really tired. The Russian guys, they always kept mentioning these guys are on their hands and feet, they're on their knees or whatever, they're tired, so I'm not sure how much of a factor that was. 64 minutes, Japan get a penalty, and that makes it 23 points to 10, and then 68 minutes, Matsushima gets his hat-trick try, and it was kind of the Russian fullback, the captain was Artemev. A bit of a nothing kick, man, and the Japanese just get the ball wide. Matsushima just beats the number 8. And he's in. Easy try. So, 30 points to 10 is how it finished. 12 points to 7 at halftime. So, yeah, like I said, it's a good result for Japan. It's exactly what they needed. They would have been pretty disappointed not to get a bonus point, so they've done the minimum, but no more. They'll look back at this, not overly convincing, too many handling errors despite some slick moves throughout the game. Possession ended up 50-50, territory actually 52 to Russia in that second half, but the run meters were 633 to 284, so Japan really racked up some of those in the second half. Russia still ended up with more kicks, 42 to 36, so it was definitely their strategy for the day. Both sides' lineouts operated pretty well, 92% and 88%. For Japan and Russia respectively. It'll be interesting to see how Japan's lineout goes up against a slightly tougher team, because as the commentators also mentioned, and I've looked at their stats, Japan don't have a genuine 2 meter plus lock that's kind of that reliable at lineout time. So Russia's tackling improved second half up to 72% for the course of the game. Japan came slightly down from 90% to 87%, but that's still pretty bloody good. So they should be pretty happy with the way they defended, just conceding the one try was just a mistake, really. Individuals, Jimeno somehow managed 113 meters for Japan, so that's encouraging for a loose forward. He also beat 6 defenders, 2 defenders beaten. Horier, back from an injury, managed 16 out of 16 tackles, so good work from the big forward. Lapis Labaskakni also 16 out of 17 tackles and 2 turnovers, so something he adds to that game too. For the Russians, though, Golonitsky got 6 defenders beaten, so good on him. Got the first try of the Rugby World Cup, so that's a special honour that nobody else can have for the tournament. Jivitov had 11 out of 12 tackles, so a pretty good success rate for him as well. I guess if you're Japan, you're looking at your goal kicking, 3 out of 5 for Tamura. Not ideal. Some of those kicks probably he should have been kicking. And some of the kicks in play were a wee bit aimless, but again, it's the first game. Their scrum was under a wee bit of pressure, and the high balls, at least early, were causing them problems. For the Russians, the fitness potentially, if what the commentators were alluding to was so correct, but I mean, they will still look at the amount of turnovers they were able to win. They did win quite a few. off the Japanese as a strength. But yeah, their missed tackle count, especially in that first half, was a bit disappointing. So yeah, Japan are top of Pool A with 5 points, but nobody else has played yet. So we'll see how that pool develops. The Rugby World Cup has started. It's underway. We should all be very happy rugby fans. I actually, during the game, I watched the game on TV, which was good because that one was free to air here in New Zealand, but all the rest of the games, well, the majority, are on Spark Sport. I tested that during the game too. It was about 3 or 4 seconds behind the TV, so not too bad. It seemed to work fine, and I also tested the VPN for ITV. Worked fine as well, so it's good to have backup options just in case anything happens. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. What did you think of the performance from Japan? If you're a Scotland or Ireland fan, do you look at this and feel slightly better? Or do you feel like it was kind of all hype to begin with? Or are you genuinely feeling like Japan are going to cause problems in those conditions? Can any of you see the Russians threatening the other teams in this pool? But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts and I'll talk to you again soon. I'm going to go to bed because it's 1 o'clock in the morning. See you later.